I want to welcome you to the July 23rd, 2023 message here at Meadowbrook Baptist Church called Twists and Turns. You can probably see in the background that this week is going to be special here at Meadowbrook Baptist Church as we have Twists and Turns Vacation Bible School each night from 6 to 8:30 p.m. starting tonight, Sunday, July 23rd from 6 to 8:30 p.m. and it's for grade ages pre-K or 3 years old through completed sixth grade. Elizabeth Magee was born in Macomb, Illinois in May of 1866. I doubt anyone here has ever heard of Lizzie McGee or Magee. Her dad was James Magee, and he's kind of interesting. He traveled with Abraham Lincoln on his political campaigns around Illinois and spoke out on the abolition of slavery. But his daughter, Lizzie Magee or McGee, moved to Washington, D.C. and worked for the post office. And while there, she developed a mechanism to help typewriters work better. She developed a new type of roller that helped the paper move through the typewriter without getting torn. She also studied economics, particularly under a guy named Henry George, who was against the large monopolies that dominated the U.S. economy. Inspired by his teachings, she developed a board game, an educational board game that promoted less monopolies and more private ownership of land. The game she had patented was called the landlord game. Now, maybe you renters have played the landlord game before, I don't know. But over the next 30 years, the game became quite popular in the Northeast until 1935, while playing the landlord game for the first time, a man named Darrow, I think it was Clarence Darrow, had an idea for another game which he developed, and he called it Monopoly. Which was soon bought by Parker Brothers, and but they said we better pay Lizzie Magee off, paid her $500 for the patent for the landlord game, so there wouldn't be any kind of patent disputes. I tell you, that $500 was pretty cheap, wasn't it? Over the last 88 years, Monopoly has become the third best selling game of all time, nearly selling 300 million game sets. I first remember playing my brothers about 50 years ago in Monopoly. And boy, if you have brothers and you've played any kind of games, it can get interesting. We played the game like there was no tomorrow, and the money was really real. And sometimes the game board got flipped up in the air, and all the game pieces and money went flying, and we wouldn't be able to play Monopoly for a while. But yeah, Monopoly, the third best-selling game behind chess is number one, and checkers, which sells like 3 million checker games a year, something like that. Um, I've the game has 28 different properties, and you try to buy up the most properties so you can charge everybody exorbitant rent and make more money. And the guy or the person who has the most property and the most money at the end of the game wins. Now, all these properties were based on streets and places around Atlantic City, New Jersey, which I didn't realize that until I was reading about it. We would play the game for hours and hours. One of the most important things about Monopoly, I would point out, is choosing your game piece. There's like 6 or 8 game pieces. There's the top hat and the race car and the shoe and the little Scotty Terrier dog. And I usually wanted to get the race car or the shoe because I wanted to walk all over town. Now, there were a lot of learning things about the game that actually were educational, like, be able to count money, make change, save money, make wise choices, and so forth, and how to get along with your brothers. Now, I always try to get all the railroads and Park Place and Boardwalk. But this week, we're going to be taking the board game theme to a new level as we learn that following Jesus changes the game. There are a lot of twists and turns in life, and on this game board behind me on the back wall, you can see the twists and turns of the game board. But in real life, a lot of twists and turns. That's why it's important that we want the kids to learn that following Jesus changes everything. Our theme verse in Scripture for this morning and this week is Psalm 25:4. Make your ways known to me, Lord. Teach me your paths. Now, as I said, the game of life, is going to have many twists and turns, and we're going to look at that. Board games have been around, by the way, for a long time, longer than I really thought. In fact, the first board games were back in Egypt about 3,000 years ago. There was a game called Senet, S-E-N-E-T in English, which you find pictures in ancient Egyptian tombs of the pharaohs painted in hieroglyphics going back, like I said, 3,000 years ago. And the painting of Senet, the game I saw on the wall of this tomb, it shows the dead pharaoh playing this game. It has a board with like 28 different squares on it. But on the other side of the playing board, it looks like he's playing against someone invisible. And it's thought, well, if you won the board game of Senet, then you might be able to cross the river Styx into the afterlife by winning the game. I don't know. But as we look at games, there are a lot of times they do symbolize challenges in life. Chess is kind of like a battle between two opposing forces, or checkers, king me, and Monopoly, the money, payday, life. All these games, they present some of the things that you face in life. Now, in Psalm 25, David is talking about some challenges that he is facing. An enemy, an opponent, not in a game, but in real life. And he's not trying to figure out how to win the game. He's trying to figure out how to overcome his enemies. And David went through a lot of twists and turns in his life. And that's why he said this prayer, make your ways known to me, Lord. Teach me your paths, because he faced so many challenges. In the various board games we play, from Aggravation to Sorry and other games where you're following a game path, you often land on spaces that say, go back 3 spaces, or do not pass go to jail, do not collect $200, in Monopoly. Or, in Aggravation, somebody might, I don't know, they might land on you and send you back to home, or something like that. Back in 1971, there was a man named Merle Robbins that developed a card game called Uno, and there's some cards over what would be my right shoulder. You can see like a Uno type card, a twist and turn card, and they could in Uno. What is the worst one is like wild card, draw 4, and somebody plays on you, you have to draw 4 extra cards. Or they skip you, or they reverse it so you don't get to play. And but in life, there are twists and turns. There are in Monopoly, there's like chance cards, go to jail, or pay the your inheritance tax, $200 or something like that. But in your life, the real twists and turns might be the doctor says, I've got some bad news to tell you. You've got cancer, or your loved one has Alzheimer's, or your last day of employment here will be in 2 weeks. You need to start looking for a new job. And these twists and turns are things that happen to your kids or whatever. It's like you're on the game board, and the spinner, you don't know who's spinning that spinner, but somehow you've wound up in the middle of a bad, thing where you're having to go back 3 spaces. That's why, we need to cry out to the Lord. Sadly, there are many kids that will be here at Vacation Bible School this week. They've already experienced some